About the author. David Clarke was a lecturer at Fareham College in Hampshire, England, when he first published this edition of the book on the 11th of February 2001. It was there that he taught electronics servicing from September 1989 through to August 2001. He was educated and trained at Wolverhampton Polytechnic and graduated with a certificate in education, which was awarded by Birmingham University in 1978. He commenced teaching at Luton College of Higher Education that year and has taught hundreds of students during his 21 years as a lecturer. David has 6 children, the eldest of which is Isaac John Clarke, who won the title of King of Southsea in 2011, as he was the BMX champion in Portsmouth for that year. His other children are Esther Jane Clarke, Eleanor Mary Clarke, David Martin Luther Clarke, Rebecca Alice Clarke, and now Macy Layla Clarke. However, David's earlier life had been rather different, and since leaving Dover Borstal, which was a young person's prison in 1968, he had a 3-year career of undetected crime until the night of the 16th of January 1970, when he experienced a Christian conversion while suffering from the effects of LSD. David was not the only person of his generation to have a religious experience. Many famous pop stars, celebrities and sports people have had religious experiences. Cliff Richard, Paul Jones, the lead singer of the Manfred Man, Helen Shapiro in the 60s. These 60s pop stars all became Christians. So did George Foreman, the famous boxer, Reggie Kray, the famous gangster, George Harrison of the Beatles and Pete Townsend of The Who all had some form of religious experience. Also many later pop stars like Katy Perry, Alice Cooper, all had Christian religious experience. Both he and his brother Michael were both convicted criminals in the 60s and had served time in prison for charges of malicious wounding and carrying a firearm without a license. On the night of the 6th of January 1970, their lives' path turned in different directions, and the next 14 years David read and studied the scriptures in order to educate himself, leading him to join the Bearton Strict and Particular Baptist Church in 1976, and was later ordained as a strict Baptist minister in 1983. David married in 1977 and had 4 children, 2 of which were twins. In June 1984, David held a special meeting at the Bearton Strict and Particular Baptist Church, where he told his story of conversion from crime to Christ to many of his friends who came to that meeting. It was after this that David's trouble appeared to begin, and he felt compelled to resign from the Bearton Church, after which he wrote his first book, The Bearton Crisis, that explained the reason for his secession. Michael, meanwhile, found himself in trouble and was sentenced to prison in the Philippines in 1996. This led David to go on a mission to the Far East in 2001 with a friend, Gordon Smith, in order to bring relief and help to Michael. Michael, too, after 5 years in that prison, had turned from crime to Christ through reading C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity, and helped share his testimony to hundreds of criminals in the largest prison in Asia's Far East. It was then David believed it was time to complete his student's education. And so he published his book, Converted on LSD Trip. Since then, he's spoken to many of his friends of all what Jesus had done for him. He wished to make it known to all his students and friends that his bad experience on LSD was nothing compared to the experience of hell. Now, like Oskar Schindler and his list, all that were on that list were saved, who otherwise would have perished at the hands of the Nazis. So too, this David had a list of over 250 students and friends that he wanted to contact. He wished to persuade them to hear in full of all what Jesus Christ had done for him and what he could do for others. David now wishes to reach a wider audience. David met Dave Courtney in 2004, and he promised to help David tell his story to help others think again and maybe turn from crime and avoid a criminal record. Sadly, Michael died in the prison in May 2005 from tuberculosis, before their vision of bringing help to many was realised. And now David wishes to bring a message of hope to all his friends. David believed that at the first publication of his book, he had a word of encouragement from the Lord about his testimony, which is this: "And he was astonished, and all they that were with him, at the draught of fishes which they had taken." Luke chapter 4, verse 9.